All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling a giant in the world of personal development.
Literally a giant?
Yeah. Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within.
It's a big one.
It is a big one, both literally and figuratively right.
Yeah.
But that's why we're here, to break it down into something a little more digestible.
Yeah.
So this book is really about taking control, creating the life you want, and we're going to break down exactly how to do that.
Yeah, and it's funny. So many people see personal development as like this fluffy, feel-good stuff.
Right.
But this book is really about like taking those big ideas about personal growth and really giving you the tools to turn them into action.
I love that, it's like having a personal coach in book form almost.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that struck me right away was Robbins' emphasis on the power of decisions, right? He's got this idea that our lives aren't determined by our circumstances, but by the choices we make every single day.
Yeah, I mean, he talks about it as like shifting from feeling like things are happening to you to recognizing that you have agency, right?
Yeah.
Every decision, no matter how small, puts you on a different path.
So it's not just the big life-altering choices, but even those little everyday decisions add up.
Totally.
It all comes together.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of those decisions, one of the things he talks about is this concept called the 7-day decision challenge.
Okay.
And it's really simple, but it's powerful. Like you pick one thing that you've been putting off, right? So maybe it's finally starting that side hustle or having that tough conversation you've been avoiding, and commit to taking one small concrete action towards it within 7 days.
I actually tried this with a creative project I had been putting off for months.
Mm-hmm.
And just that commitment to take action, even a tiny step, got me unstuck.
It creates momentum.
Yeah.
You have that urgency and you break through that procrastination.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So what about you listening? Think about one decision you've been putting off. What's one small step you could take in the next 7 days to make it happen? Write it down, tell a friend, put it in your calendar. Do whatever it takes to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, and I think, once you start making those decisions and taking action, that's when you can start to see the transformation happen.
Totally.
But, Robbins also talks about the importance of examining your beliefs.
Right.
Because those are often holding us back without us even realizing it.
He calls belief our mental blueprint.
Yeah.
Which is such a great visual, right? Like the underlying code that dictates how we see the world, what we believe is possible for ourselves.
And so often we're running around with these limiting beliefs that we've just picked up along the way, like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not creative, or I'll never be able to afford that. And those beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Totally. It's almost like we're putting these invisible walls around ourselves and limiting our potential before we even get started. But the good news is Robbins says we can change those beliefs.
Yeah.
He talks about this technique called reframing.
Yes. It's all about challenging those old stories that you've been telling yourself, shifting your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So, instead of seeing a setback as a failure, you might reframe it as a valuable learning experience.
Yeah.
Or instead of saying, I can't do that, you might say, I haven't figured out how to do it yet.
Yeah, it's about creating that possibility instead of getting stuck in the limitation.
Absolutely.
And that's powerful. Think about a belief that's been holding you back. Maybe it's something you've always told yourself about your abilities or your worth.
Yeah.
What's a more empowering way to look at that situation? Even just writing it down and saying it out loud can really start to shift things.
It's amazing how powerful those small shifts can be. And, once you start questioning those limiting beliefs, it just opens up so many more possibilities for you.
Totally. And, it's not just our thoughts and beliefs that shape our reality.
Right.
Robbins really dives into the power of our emotional state, which he calls state. State.
Yeah. And he says that we can change our state instantly just by changing our physiology, like our posture, our breathing, even our facial expressions.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed how slumping over, staring at the floor makes you feel more tired and discouraged? But if you stand up straight, shoulders back, head held high, you almost instantly feel more confident and energized.
It's so true. It feels almost like a superpower, right? Like you can change your whole mood just by changing your physical stance.
Absolutely.
And Robbins suggests techniques like power poses and deep breathing to instantly shift your state.
I was skeptical of this at first, but there's actually science behind it.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that just 2 minutes of holding a power pose, like the Wonder Woman, hands on your hips, chin up, can actually lower your stress hormones and increase testosterone, which is associated with confidence and assertiveness.
Love that. Quick cheat code for feeling more powerful, right? Why don't you try a power pose right now just for a minute or
Like,
talk
so
to
then go for it. I'm doing it too. Just notice how it affects your energy and your mindset.
It might feel a little silly at first, but the results are pretty surprising.
It works.
And, speaking of things that can shift our state and our reality, Robbins emphasizes something that I find really fascinating, the power of language.
Yeah, he talks about how the words we use, both the ones we say out loud and the ones we say in our head, have a huge impact on how we feel and how we perceive the world around us.
Absolutely.
It's not just about positive self-talk, which is important, but it's also about becoming aware of the subtle ways our language might be reinforcing negative patterns.
Yes, totally. And, Robbins gives the example of saying, like, I'm stuck versus saying I'm working on it.
Oh, yeah.
One makes you feel totally powerless. The other implies progress and possibility, even if you're facing the exact same challenge, right? It's a small shift, but it makes a huge difference.
Huge. And on that note of using powerful language, Robbins is a big advocate for positive affirmations.
Oh, yes.
And it's about consciously choosing words that align with the reality you want to create.
Yeah, it might sound a little woo-woo at first.
Right.
But think of it this way. Your brain is constantly listening to your self-talk.
Yeah.
So if you're constantly feeding it these negative messages like, I'm not good enough or I always mess things up, your brain's going to believe it.
Right.
But if you start intentionally feeding it positive messages, I am capable, I am worthy, I'm learning and growing, it can actually rewire those thought patterns.
Totally. There's a whole field of research called neuroplasticity that shows how our brains are constantly adapting and rewiring themselves based on our experiences and thoughts.
Yeah.
So it's like you're training your brain for success by using these positive affirmations.
Now, I know affirmations can feel a little cheesy at first. You don't have to be standing in the mirror, chanting mantras if that's not your thing.
Right.
But it can be as simple as catching yourself when you use a negative phrase and consciously replacing it with a more empowering one.
Absolutely. So what's one negative phrase you use often? Maybe it's, I'm so disorganized, or I always procrastinate.
Yeah.
And now think about a more empowering alternative.
I'm learning to be more organized.
I'm getting better at managing my time.
Exactly.
And it's not about pretending everything is perfect.
No.
It's about shifting the focus from self-criticism to growth and possibility.
Absolutely. You're becoming your own cheerleader instead of your worst critic.
I love that. And speaking of things we tend to be critical of, let's talk about time management. Robbins is adamant that time is our most valuable resource, and how we use it determines the quality of our lives.
It is so easy to fall into the trap of just reacting to whatever comes up, just constantly putting out fires, feeling like you're always behind. But Robbins encourages us to shift from being reactive to proactive, right? Like to be more intentional with our time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he has this great tool for that, the time management matrix.
Oh, yeah.
It's a way to categorize your tasks based on whether they're urgent and important, not urgent but important, urgent but not important, and not urgent and not important.
Yeah. It helps you to visualize where you're spending your time and to make sure that you're actually prioritizing those tasks that really matter most.
Yeah, because I think most of us spend way too much time on those urgent but not important tasks.
Oh, totally. Like answering emails that could wait, or
Yeah.
scrolling through social media.
Yeah, or getting caught up in other people's drama.
Exactly.
All that stuff. And then we neglect those not urgent but important tasks that actually contribute to our long-term happiness and success.
Yeah.
Things like personal development, exercise, planning, building meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
And Robbins argues that we need to shift our focus to those activities if we want to create a life we love.
Absolutely.
And he even recommends this technique called time blocking, where you actually schedule specific blocks of time for different tasks in your calendar. And it's about treating your time with the same respect you would treat an important meeting or appointment.
Totally.
Right. And it helps to minimize those distractions and ensure that you're actually dedicating time to the things that really matter to you.
I love that.
So think about how you currently manage your time. Are you spending most of your time in that urgent but not important quadrant? What changes could you make to prioritize those activities that'll truly move the needle in your life?
That's such a good point.
Just a good reminder to be mindful of how we spend our precious time.
Absolutely.
Because it's literally the stuff life is made of, right? All right, let's move on to something that's crucial for achieving anything we set out to do.
Yeah.
Setting clear goals. Robbins is a big believer in the power of goals to provide direction and motivation.
Oh, yeah. But he says it's not just about setting any goal right.
Right.
It's about setting SMART goals.
SMART goals, what does that stand for?
So that's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay.
And by making your goals SMART, you're way more likely to stay motivated and actually on track.
It's like having a roadmap instead of just wandering around aimlessly.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of visualizing, Robbins is a huge proponent of using the power of your imagination to make your goals feel more real and achievable.
Oh yeah, he talks about vividly imagining yourself achieving your goals and really engaging all of your senses. So it's not just seeing yourself crossing the finish line, right? It's feeling that rush of accomplishment, hearing the cheers of the crowd, even like smelling the fresh air as you run,
I love that. I'm going to start incorporating that into my goal setting process.
Yeah.
It's like giving your brain a sneak peek of the future you want to create.
Totally.
So think about a goal you have, whether it's personal, professional, or something else. Does it meet those SMART criteria? Can you take a few minutes to visualize yourself achieving it? Really feel it.
Yeah.
And now we've talked about decisions, beliefs, state, language, time management, and goals.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But sometimes creating lasting change feels like this uphill battle, right?
Yeah.
Like we're relying on sheer willpower to overcome our old habits and patterns. But Robbins has a really interesting take on this. He believes that creating positive rituals is more effective than just relying solely on willpower.
It's about building systems and habits that support your goals. So you're not constantly having to fight against yourself.
Right. So it's not about white-knuckling it every day.
Yeah.
It's about putting those systems in place.
Think of it like brushing your teeth right.
Okay.
It's a ritual. You don't have to force yourself to do it every day. It's just something you do automatically.
Right.
And the same principle applies to other areas of our life.
I love that analogy. And Robbins is particularly fond of morning rituals, right?
Yeah.
He suggests starting your day with things like exercise, meditation, gratitude practices, or affirmations. All these rituals that help to set a positive tone for the day and prime your mind for success.
Totally.
So what's a positive ritual you could incorporate into your life? Doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe it's taking 5 minutes to stretch and breathe deeply before you check your phone in the morning. Or maybe it's writing down 3 things you're grateful for every night before bed. The key is to find something that resonates with you and that you can stick with consistently. All right, listeners, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into Awaken the Giant Within.
It's a lot.
But we've just scratched the surface. In the next part, we'll be exploring Robbins' insights on achieving financial mastery, creating lasting change, and living a life of purpose and fulfillment.
Can't wait.
Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. We're continuing our journey through Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, and this time we're stepping into the realm of financial mastery.
Yeah, I think when people hear that term financial mastery, they often think it's just about, accumulating wealth. But Robbins has a much broader perspective.
Right. It's not just about money for money's sake. It's about having the resources and the freedom to live a life that aligns with your values and your goals.
Yeah, he sees it as a way to create value, contribute to others, and make a real difference in the world, Having that security that allows you to pursue your passions and support causes you care about.
I love that perspective.
Yeah.
It takes the focus off just accumulating wealth and puts it on using your resources to create a life of meaning and impact. Absolutely.
And one of the key principles Robbins emphasizes is developing a mindset of abundance.
Yes.
Believing that there is enough to go around that you can achieve your financial goals. But I think a lot of people get stuck in a scarcity mindset where they're constantly worried about not having enough. So how do you actually cultivate that abundance mindset, especially if you are struggling financially?
Well, it's a process, for sure. It starts with shifting your focus from what you lack to what you already have.
Okay.
And gratitude plays a huge role in this.
Yeah.
Even if you're facing challenges, financially, there are always things to be grateful for: your health, your relationships, the roof over your head. And by focusing on those things, you start to shift your energy and attract more abundance.
It's like that saying, where attention goes, energy flows.
Exactly.
And Robbins also talks about financial freedom as a key part of this.
Yeah, it's not just about being rich.
Yeah.
It's about having that security to make choices that align with your values and your goals, not feeling trapped by your finances.
And he breaks down some practical steps to achieve that freedom.
Yes.
Saving, investing, creating multiple streams of income.
Yeah, he encourages people to become financially literate, to educate themselves about money management, make smart decisions that will set them up for long-term success.
So for you listening, take a moment to reflect on your own relationship with money. Do you have a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset? Do you have any financial goals you'd like to work toward? What steps can you take to create more financial freedom in your life? Maybe it's starting a savings plan, learning about investing, or exploring ways to generate additional income.
It's a journey, not a destination.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about making conscious choices that align with your values and your goals, and taking consistent action towards building a secure and fulfilling financial future.
Absolutely.
All right, so shifting gears a bit, let's dive into another powerful concept from the book, creating lasting change. We've talked about setting goals, shifting our beliefs, mastering our emotions, but how do we actually make those changes stick?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Robbins introduces this technique called neuroassociative conditioning, or NAC.
NAC.
Yeah, it sounds very technical, but it's actually pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's all about understanding how our brains work.
Okay.
Essentially, our brains learn by associating things with pleasure or pain.
Interesting.
So NAC is about consciously linking pleasure to positive behaviors and pain to negative ones.
So you're rewiring your brain to make those healthy choices more appealing and those unhealthy choices less appealing.
Exactly.
I like it, but how do you actually do that?
Well, it starts with awareness.
Okay.
So think about a habit you'd like to change.
All right.
Maybe it's eating healthier, exercising regularly, being more patient. Now, what are the negative consequences of that habit? Maybe it's feeling sluggish, having low energy, damaging your relationships. Really connect with those unpleasant feelings.
Turn up the volume on the pain. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then you do the same thing with the positive behavior. So what are the benefits of eating healthier? Maybe it's feeling more energized, looking better, improving your overall health. Really visualize those positive outcomes and connect with the feelings of pleasure and satisfaction.
Make it more enticing.
Exactly.
So you're really associating that positive feeling with that positive behavior.
Right. And then you need to reinforce those associations through repetition.
Okay.
It's not enough to just try something once,
Yeah.
right? You have to practice it consistently until it becomes a habit, until it's almost automatic.
It's like learning to ride a bike at first. It's
Yeah.
awkward and challenging.
Yeah,
But with practice, it becomes second nature. You don't even have to think about it anymore.
exactly.
And that's what we're aiming for with any behavior change. We want to create these new neural pathways that become so strong that the positive behavior becomes our default mode.
Totally.
And Robbins emphasizes that consistency is key.
Yeah.
It's not about being perfect, it's about making progress. So take those small steps consistently day after day until those small steps add up to big changes.
Yeah. And, and remember, you're not alone in this. We all have habits we'd like to change. So be patient with yourself, celebrate those successes, and just keep practicing.
Totally. Now let's shift our focus to something that's really at the heart of personal growth. Living a life of purpose and fulfillment. I mean, what's it all for, right? We can set goals, we can achieve success, we can accumulate wealth, but if it doesn't feel meaningful, it's all for nothing.
It's so true.
And Robbins argues that true fulfillment doesn't come from those external achievements or material possessions. It comes from living a life that's aligned with your values and contributing to something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, he believes that happiness, true lasting happiness, comes from growth and from using your unique talents and abilities to make a positive impact on the world.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your passions, your skills, and your values intersect, but how do you actually figure out what your purpose is? It can feel like this big, elusive thing.
It's definitely a journey of self-discovery. It starts with understanding your values.
Yeah.
What's truly important to you? What do you stand for? What kind of impact do you want to make on the world? And once you have a clear sense of those values, you can start to explore how to live a life that reflects them.
So it's not necessarily about finding that one big grand purpose, but rather about making choices every day that are in alignment with what you believe in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about infusing, your work, your relationships, your hobbies, every aspect of your life with meaning and purpose.
I love that. So for you listening, take a moment to reflect on your own values. What's truly important to you? How can you live a life that's more in line with those values? How can you use your skills and your talents to make a difference in the world? It doesn't have to be something huge. It could be as simple as volunteering your time, mentoring someone, or simply being more kind and compassionate in your interactions with others.
Yeah, the key is to find what resonates with you and then take action.
It's a powerful invitation to step into our full potential and create a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling.
Absolutely. And, as we're talking about living a life of purpose, it reminds me of another concept that Robbins discusses. I think it ties into this beautifully. It's the idea of creating a personal power statement.
Okay, a personal power statement. What is that?
It's like a mission statement for your life.
Hmm.
You know, it's a concise, powerful declaration that encapsulates your values, your goals, and your commitment to living a life of purpose.
So it's like a guiding principle to come back to.
Yeah.
I like that. And Robbins encourages people to write their personal power statements and to review them regularly to stay focused and motivated.
It's about consciously choosing the story you want to tell with your life.
Yeah. All right, listeners, we've explored a lot of powerful concepts in this part of our deep dive, from financial mastery to creating lasting change to living a life of purpose. But we're not done yet. In the final part, we'll be wrapping up our exploration of Awaken the Giant Within with some key takeaways and a final call to action. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Awaken the Giant Within. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty energized after exploring all these concepts.
Yeah, it's incredible how much practical advice is packed into this book.
No, it's not just theory. It's about taking action and creating real change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of action, as we wrap up our exploration, I want to circle back to something Robbins emphasizes throughout the book. It's not enough to just read about these ideas. We have to apply them. Knowledge is only powerful when it's put into practice.
He's all about taking massive, determined action, right? And it's not about taking one giant leap. It's about taking those consistent steps toward your goals, even if they're small steps.
It's building momentum.
Exactly,
Yeah.
building momentum, yeah.
And as we reflect on everything we've discussed, from the power of decisions to the importance of rituals, it's clear that Awaken the Giant Within is really a call to awaken to our own potential, right? To step into the driver's seat of our lives and create the reality we desire.
It's a reminder that we have this incredible power within us, this capacity for growth and transformation, but it's up to us to tap into it.
So as we bring this deep dive to a close, I want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question. What one action can you take today to start awakening your own inner giant? It doesn't have to be something huge.
Right.
It could be as simple as
Writing down one SMART goal.
practicing a power pose to boost your confidence.
Replacing a negative thought with a more empowering one.
Creating a simple morning ritual to set a positive tone for your day.
Or committing to that 7-day decision challenge we talked about.
The key is to take action.
Yes.
Don't wait for that perfect moment or the perfect plan. Just start.
Like Robbins says, the only impossible journey is the one you never begin.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Awaken the Giant Within. We hope you gained some valuable insights and are feeling inspired to create the life you truly desire.
Remember, the power is within you.
Now go out there and awaken your inner giant. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.